Tesla is about to do something that looks completely backward. Instead of launching its most advanced battery technology in a luxury flagship, Tesla plans to debut solid-state batteries in its cheapest car, the Model 2. On the surface, that sounds like a gift, almost too good to be true. Solid-state batteries are usually reserved for premium, high-priced vehicles. So if Tesla puts them in a budget car, you should pause and ask one question. What does Tesla know that most buyers do not? If you're looking at EV in the $12,000 to $15,000 range, including the Model 2 and its Chinese competitors, this decision could quietly shape your costs for the next decade. And here's the part that really matters for you. Does solid state in the Model 2 actually save you money over 10 to 15 years? Or is it a smart-sounding upgrade that never pays you back? To answer that, we need to look at the pressure that pushed Tesla into this move. What forces pushed Tesla to put solid-state batteries into the Model 2? Tesla is being squeezed from both sides of the EV market, and this is where the stakes rise fast. The pressure is not theoretical. It is visible in pricing, charging speed, and the way buyers compare value in seconds on a screen before they ever walk into a showroom. On the low end, Chinese brands are pushing EV prices down aggressively. Some models already offer practical range at prices that make the Model 2 look expensive on day one. But price alone is not what shifts the market. Convenience is what shifts the market, because convenience changes what people are willing to tolerate. Here is what changes buyer psychology. Those cars are not just cheaper. They are getting faster to charge, and that is the type of improvement that even non-technical buyers understand immediately. Chinese battery suppliers are improving LFP technology at a rapid pace. Some newer LFP packs claim they can add hundreds of kilometers of range in around 10 minutes. For a buyer comparing options in the same price neighborhood, that claim lands like a punch. If you can buy a cheaper EV and it charges in 10 minutes, you start asking a dangerous question. Why pay more for Tesla? And once that question enters the conversation, it does not stay contained inside forums. It spreads into mainstream buyer logic, where feelings often matter as much as specifications. Now add the second risk. If the Model 2 launches with slower charging or weaker perceived battery innovation, it can feel outdated before it even hits your driveway. And if a car feels outdated on arrival, most buyers will never give it a second look, no matter how good the brand reputation is. Now look at the other end of the market. In Japan and Europe, solid state is being sold as premium tech, a symbol of the next era. Toyota and its partners are aiming to commercialize solid-state cells later in the decade, likely starting in high-end models. Stellantis and Factorial are also pushing towards solid-state deployments in performance-oriented vehicles. This matters because whoever launches solid-state first gets to define what it means in the public mind: safer, faster, longer-lasting, and worth paying for. Here is the risk for Tesla. If Tesla waits, competitors define solid state as their story. If Tesla launches it only in premium models, Tesla wins headlines, but it does not win volume. Tesla cannot survive on headlines alone. It needs scale, and scale comes from the Model 2 segment. So the Model 2 becomes the battlefield. It is expected to be a high-volume vehicle aimed at buyers who keep their cars for years. And if you keep a car long-term, you care about what most reviews barely mention: battery aging, charging speed over time, and resale value in year 10. If Tesla misplays this, the Model 2 could become a value trap. If Tesla gets it right, the Model 2 could become the safest long-term EV bet in its price range. Now let us break down what solid-state changes compared with LFP. Inside the Model 2 solid-state battery and how it differs from LFP. First, energy density, because this is where the physical advantage truly begins and where many long-term effects quietly originate. LFP batteries are affordable and durable, which is why they dominate the lower end of the EV market. But they are heavy for the amount of energy they store. That extra weight does not announce itself on a spec sheet. yet it influences nearly every aspect of how the car behaves. More mass means more energy required to move, more strain on braking systems, and more resistance during acceleration. Solid-state batteries aim for higher energy density, which means similar usable capacity with significantly less mass. That matters more than it sounds. In a compact car, dropping tens of kilograms is not a minor engineering tweak. It can improve real-world range without increasing battery size, sharpen braking feel, and make the car feel more responsive in everyday driving. Over time, that lighter load can also reduce tire wear and suspension strain, lowering maintenance costs that buyers rarely factor into EV ownership. Next is durability, and this is where long-term owners either win big or get burned. LFP already offers strong cycle life, which is one of its biggest strengths. Solid-state designs target even higher cycle counts, which means the battery is expected to retain usable capacity for longer. If real-world performance reaches even part of those targets, the difference becomes meaningful. Slower degradation means the car stays practical for longer, rather than slowly shrinking into a compromised version of itself. Targets are not guarantees, but even partial success changes the ownership equation because the battery is the most expensive component in the vehicle. Protecting that component protects the value of the entire car. Now consider fast charging, where expectations have changed dramatically in recent years. LFP can fast charge, but repeated high-powered charging creates heat, and heat accelerates wear. Over time, this can force charging systems to limit power more often, especially as the battery ages. Solid-state chemistry aims to lower internal resistance, which reduces heat generation during high-power charging. In practice, that means charging can remain more consistent over the life of the car, not just fast under ideal conditions. This consistency matters more than peak numbers because it defines how reliable the car feels year after year. There is also a strategic benefit. If charging is fast and stable enough, Tesla can use a smaller battery pack without destroying convenience. On the spec sheet, a smaller number may look disappointing. In daily use, it may not matter if the car quickly adds enough range to keep routines intact. Finally, safety. Many thermal incidents involve liquid electrolytes under extreme conditions. Solid-state electrolytes are more stable and less volatile, which can reduce the probability of thermal runaway. This matters because the Model 2 is designed for real life, not test tracks. It will sit near homes, in parking garages, and in dense cities. Safety is not a luxury feature. It is part of trust. Now we arrive at the real test. Does any of this actually make the Model 2 cheaper to own over 10 to 15 years? Or does it simply sound better on paper? Is the solid-state Model 2 truly cheaper over 10 to 15 years? Start with the obvious truth, because avoiding it only weakens the argument. The solid-state version is likely to cost more upfront. Solid-state batteries are more expensive per kilowatt-hour, especially in the early stages of their rollout. Manufacturing processes are still maturing, supply chains are not fully optimized, and yields are not yet at mass-scale levels. All of that shows up in the sticker price. So if you only look at purchase price, solid-state looks worse. On day one, the cheaper LFP option appears to be the smarter financial decision. But purchase price is not ownership cost, and this is where many buyers stop thinking too early. Energy is the steady, predictable expense over time. Electricity is usually far cheaper than gasoline, and that gap compounds year after year. Even modest annual savings add up when you stretch ownership across a decade. Solid-state does not dramatically change your electricity rate, but it can help protect efficiency as the battery ages, which quietly preserves those savings instead of eroding them. Here is the point most people miss. Solid-state is not mainly about lowering your electricity bill. It is about lowering your risk of battery regret. Now imagine two owners who keep their cars for 12 years. Owner 1 buys a cheaper LFP competitor. The price is lower upfront, and the deal feels smart at the beginning. But over time, battery health declines. Range shrinks enough to affect daily flexibility. Charging sessions feel longer or less consistent. When it comes time to sell, buyers hesitate because they fear replacement cost, even if the car still works. Owner 2 buys a solid-state Model 2. The price is higher upfront, and the decision feels harder. But over the years, the battery holds capacity better. Charging performance remains more stable. The car continues to feel usable instead of compromised. When it reaches the used market, buyers feel more confident because the battery still supports practical range. Here is the honesty line that matters. We are still early, so these are projections, not guarantees. Real-world data will ultimately decide how well solid-state delivers on its promises. That said, ownership patterns matter more than hype. If you tend to swap cars every 3 or 4 years, you may never see the full advantage of solid-state. Depreciation, not degradation, dominates your cost equation. But if you keep a car close to a decade or longer, battery health becomes the difference between a safe asset and an expensive headache. Nobody wants to wake up in year 8 and realize the cheap car just became a battery problem they cannot afford to fix. That moment erases years of small savings in an instant. Resale value is the final lever. Battery condition is often the single biggest factor in used EV pricing. A car that still delivers confident range after a decade stays valuable. A car that does not becomes a discount car, regardless of brand. So the real question is not whether solid state sounds futuristic. The real question is whether it protects your wallet when time, aging, and resale finally matter. Finally, Tesla's decision to bring solid-state batteries to the Model 2 is not about generosity. It is about survival. If the EV market keeps compressing, Tesla needs a way to defend value at the low end while staying ahead of the premium narrative at the high end. Solid-state in the Model 2 is that attempt. If it works, the Model 2 will not just be an affordable Tesla. It could be one of the safest long-term EV bets for people who keep their car for a decade. Now I want your answer. Would you rather pay less today and accept more battery risk later, or pay more upfront for stability and stronger resale value? Tell me where you land in the comments. And if you like numbers first analysis instead of hype, consider subscribing so you do not miss the next breakdown.